you have a certain uniform that you wear and you're ready to go and you feel confident. And this should be the same thing for women to go out fishing. Why not be comfortable and confident and have technical clothing that works and just make it so that that's your outfit and expresses yourself.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. First off, I want to thank everyone for the great feedback from last week's solo episode. I don't do those very often, but I plan to sprinkle a few more of them in this year since there are so many exciting things going on. We made one new addition to our world of adventure after attending the Bradenton Boat Show this past weekend. One of the exhibitors was a company called Kraken Adventure Bikes, and being down here in Florida, it seems everyone's so active, riding their bikes around all the time, so we've had the itch to get a couple of bikes. When I saw that booth, I had to go over and try them out because they're actually e-bikes, and the model is a Jupiter bike, and they actually fold up so you can put them in the trunk of your car. They do weigh around 35 to 40 pounds, so not too heavy to lift by yourself, but I did a test ride at the show and was really impressed with how smooth and comfortable it was. So we did a deal with them on 2 bikes, and I can't wait to try them out. We're really lucky in that where we're staying in Florida, we're surrounded by water, so there's a lot of fishing opportunities. And one night I fished right here in the neighborhood and got a nice black drum and a ton of little red snapper. I caught a fish on just about every cast. It was a lot of fun. But one really cool place we're excited to ride our new bikes to is a place called Emerson Point Preserve. And it's on a peninsula, and right now we're told the fishing has been pretty hot around there. You can actually wade out from the point and fish a trough that holds a lot of fish, but then it's also surrounded by mangroves, and that attracts a lot of snook. So we're excited to get over there and try that out. All right, so my guest for this week's episode is Linda Leary, creator of the brand FisheWear. I actually met Linda for the first time when we picked her up at the Tampa airport when she flew down from Alaska to join us on a leg of the Redfish Roadie Roadtrip back in the fall of 2019. It was so much fun. I had her on the show just briefly for one of the Rollin' in the Minivan episodes, but now she's back on finally so we can really dig into her awesome story creating the brand FisheWear and what it's all about. Enjoy. Linda Leary from FisheWear, welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. It was great. You know, you kind of were on the show briefly last fall when we were down in Florida. We were actually rolling in the minivan and recorded a little thing. And back then we talked about having you on the show. So I'm glad we finally were able to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for making it happen. It's awesome. No, it's just fun to see all the great stuff you're doing. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, I wanted to talk before we get into the interview, just talk a little bit about our Florida experience. And I know you had kind of, because you're up in Alaska, you kind of had a crazy journey to get down there to Florida. That's quite a trip.
Yeah, it's a long haul, and I was greeted at the airport. I think it was you and Heather and signs and everything. It was like, it's just like the best. So that was super fun.
It was
I knew it was going to be a great trip.
Yeah, and it was a short one for you. We had already been to a couple locations, and then you joined up with us. It was in Stewart, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I think in Tampa, then we did Stewart Island, and then down around to Miami and back around the other side, yeah.
Yeah, that was a blast. And you actually got to do a photo shoot for FisheWear while you were down there, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was just awesome. Yeah. Beautiful photo.
Oh, yeah. That was a crazy day for me. If I remember when we were out in Stewart, that was the day that we come across the runaway boat where the guy had gotten thrown overboard. God. And it was doing the circle of death when we come up on him.
So that's great material for you on not what to do, right?
Exactly.
On what not to do.
I filmed it from my iPhone, And now that I'm a training captain with Freedom Boat Club, I use that video. Actually, it got picked up by this viral video TV show called Right This Minute. And so, I captured that clip when they aired that experience, and I put that in my training for new members when we talk about always wear your kill switch.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that was dangerous.
It was. Yeah, that guy was very, very lucky to survive. And then it was kind of funny because after that we went out fishing. We were with the owner, or no, he wasn't the owner. I can't remember his name now. But with Chittum Skiffs, and he took us out. So it's a, kind of a small boat. I mean, these aren't huge boats by any means, but he took us out, like he wanted to show us the coastline. And so he took us out through the surf in that little bitty boat. And I was kind of freaking out. I had my GoPro going. I was like, we're going to die. We're going to die. And what was really funny, and we no sooner get out there and we're looking at the coastline. And once we got through that, it was much more calm and we were fine. And no sooner that happened, he got a phone call and we were all supposed to come back in. So we had to turn around and go right back in. But thankfully, he took a different route that was not quite so treacherous to get back. So,
I remember seeing that rough water out there. We're like, we're not going out there. We had Hal Chittum was our
awesome.
captain, the owner of Chittum Skiffs. Was just, what a class act that guy is. He was so fun.
That's cool. Very
cool. That was
and
pretty awesome.
He used to own Hills Bay. Is that right? Do you remember?
I am not sure. I know that he had a whole bunch of like fishing stores at one time, and then he did have another boat building company. I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that was a pretty iconic brand. So, very cool.
Pretty amazing guy.
Well, to give listeners a little background on who you are and how you got into fly fishing, if you could just kind of get into that a little bit.
Sure, you bet. So I live in Alaska. I moved here right out of college. Grew up in Maine and went to college in Maine, and then grew up in a little town called Stockholm, Maine, and it's near the Allagash River and the St. John and some really iconic fly fishing areas. And my dad is a big fly fisherman. He actually is turning 91 next month, and he's still alive and with us, and he's the one that I learned the love of fishing and fly fishing from, because if you wanted to hang out with him, you had to go fishing. And that was just the way it was. So I loved it. And moving to Alaska, I fished when I first got here, then I got married and had kids and stuff. And I just didn't get as involved with it until probably 20 years ago. Again, picked it back up, and we used to take. I used to be a partner in a large trucking company up here, and we'd take clients out.
Did you do like the ice road trucker stuff? I feel like I remember Jen saying something about that.
Yeah. So I was the president of Carlisle Trucking, which was the Ice Road Truckers, and so we filmed that show for about 4 years.
Wow.
And that was probably from 2004 to 2008, something like that. And we had our drivers on there, and actually I think one of them is still on the show. They moved back to Canada to film, but she's still on there, Lisa. And so that was quite an experience. I had a little bit of experience with production and film crews.
Wow.
It was fun.
That's I have a hard time watching that show because I'm stressed out the whole time.
I know. I asked the production crew one time, so what is it you're trying to do with this show? And they're like, we just want to make people have fun and relax. It doesn't sound like you were relaxing.
No.
It didn't work.
The opposite. And I think about, driving. I've had experience driving on frozen lakes up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, ice fishing. And I'm scared to death doing that half the time. So I just can't imagine being in a big, huge truck like that, doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. The truck drivers are truly, they're just the salt of the earth, and they're good, really good people and hard workers. And so it's really a fun industry. So I was in that industry for about 30 years.
Wow.
I had grew up in it, and then we sold our company, and during the last probably 15 years of it, we used to take clients out fishing, at some really nice lodges in Western Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to perfect my fly fishing skills, learning with all these great guides, and then just really getting to practice and teach clients how to fish as well, and just helping them have a good experience. And so out there on the river, we had a lot at the time. In the beginning, I used to take it was mostly guys that would go out fishing with us, but then more and more as I had there were more female leaders coming along, I would do just trips that were half and half or just all gals, and we get out there and fish, and they loved it, and we had so much fun, and we talk about all the different look at our clothes when we're fishing on the river, like, that could use some work. Like, that could be a lot more fun than it is.
Yeah.
And so we'd brainstorm, and I'd start taking notes on my phone or wherever, and so just used all the years of fishing with various gals and guys too that would give us suggestions. And I'm like, someday I'm gonna try and do something about that. So, yeah.
And then you did.
Kind of how fishy. And then I did.
And that's what how FisheWear came about. And that was back in 2015, right?
Yeah, so it's been 5 years. Awesome. Yeah, we just celebrated our 5th year. And I started, and my friend had she's an industrial photographer, and she had an office, and I went over to her one day and said, hey, can I rent an office from you? I'm gonna do this project, and I just need a place away from my house to think, and put lots of sticky notes on the wall and white sheets, and she's a creative person, so it was a perfect atmosphere for us to kind of cultivate fishing and get started. And she's still our quasi-creative director, we call her.
Nice.
So, but yeah, and then we moved out of her office a couple years ago into a new loft, which is really a little warehouse space, which is a throwback to my trucking days, which I love warehouses. So it's just fishy eyes now. Lots of pallets on the wall and clothes hanging and bags and color.
Nice. Well,
yeah.
That's a cool story because that's, you saw a need for something. You're passionate about fly fishing and women in fly fishing, and, like I say, saw a need for it, but that's not something you really had any experience with prior, but you just went for it. And I think that's a really inspirational story because a lot of women have these ideas and things like that, but then they just think, well, I'm not qualified, or I can't do anything like that. So I love to hear stories like that where people just go for it and it works out. So. Yeah.
And I also, we bought women's fly fishing about 3 years ago from Pudge Kleinkoff, who had been in the industry 30 years. And that's the travel and the education side of our business. So they're two separate companies, but they complement each other, right? And
totally.
It's just it's such a fun way to have the clothing and gear side, and authenticates it with the education and the travel side, so you can use it and have the whole experience with the two different. So we're just very fortunate to have that opportunity to blend that in there.
So the look of FisheWear, I think, is very unique. Can you talk a little bit about the design and the artwork that goes into it?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I did a little talk this weekend with another group, and they're asking what's the toughest thing when you started your business. It was finding the name, right? And so it took us about 2 or 3 months of writing names down, and then searching for trademark issues and writing more down, and then family texts and friend texts and we even had Senator Murkowski in the middle of it. We did a little meet and greet with our U.S. Senator. She was in town at our office. And so we had her and a whole bunch of gals writing names all over white sheets so they can be involved in helping us figure out the name. And that's a kind of a creative process. I mean, you have to kind of have the name to kind of focused around. So once we did that and we came up with the name FiShe, which is actually my kids that came up with the name.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, my sons. And
I'm surprised.
I'm
kind of surprised nobody had come up with that yet, because that's kind of fits right in.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's you can highlight the she part of FiShe, and at first everybody's like, "How do you pronounce it?" I'm like, I'm going to let people decide. We'll see how they pronounce it, and it comes out FiShe. So.
Yeah. Well, and before you go on, I wanted to touch on that. One of the notes I'd made was I noticed I was reading through the About section on the website, and there was a note about that you were thinking about naming it Lindy Line after your dad, right? So I thought that was interesting because I come from the conventional side. Growing up in Minnesota, the iconic Lindner family. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Al and Ron Lindner, and they were big in the walleye world, and they invented this rig that has sold, I think, hundreds of millions, called the Lindy rig. And that was actually the first thing I thought of when I heard Lindy Line. So it might have got a little confusing. I'm not sure. I know it's two different kind of facets of fishing, it's fresh on my mind because Ron Lindner just passed away. This week as we're recording this episode. It'll be a little bit before it releases, but I just thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, my dad's name is Lindy, and honestly, the first name I had was Lindy Line. I wanted to name it after him because of everything he's given me, and not having done my trademark search. And you find out, there are trademark attorneys like, well, there's this, like you mentioned, there's this, these fish and lure company, and they've got this Lindy, and I'm like, oh, darn it. I'm like, I know, but it's my dad, and very sadly, so I couldn't name it that. So we, that's how we came up with FiShe after that. So then I had to change my business license name and everything else. So a good lesson on doing your search, but that was the name that really stuck with me because I just love that name, and so kudos to the Lindy tackle company.
They won.
Maybe one day we'll name something Lindy.
Yeah,
but
I always thought it'd be cool if I get another dog to name it Lindy, but it would be after the Lindy.
I love it.
The Lindners.
Angie. Oh, please. I always wanted to have a daughter. I wanted to have a daughter and name her Lindy.
Oh, yeah.
But I had boys, which is good. But there's still maybe granddaughters one day. Who knows?
There you go. There's still hope.
Yeah.
So you landed on the name FisheWear, and then how did that kind of lead into the rest of it?
So then from FiShe, FisheWear is kind of a nice way to just kind of explain what we do. So that's kind of where we go back and forth between that. But the creative side of it came from, I love art, and you want to honor artists and have something a little different for clothing than solid colors. And in my experience, wearing patterns or bright colors didn't seem to impact fishing for me. Though I'm sure in some areas it would, depending on what you wear, how you fish. But I've even caught bonefish wearing my stuff, and so it didn't spook them too bad. But so we thought about, I thought about just taking the art and being able to put it integrated into the clothing and the gear that we have and the colors, and just having some fun. So I think it was kind of as a little bit of a disruptor in the market, in a sense, only because we really are bold with our color versus what's typical in the marketplace. And though we try to also have some more muted patterns too. We have a new Swedish one that we just came out with. That was a Swedish artist that's just adorable, and it's darker colors and like brown, blacks and cream colors and stuff. So it's really fun.
Cool.
But it's really all about the fish and naming the fish, which is the fun part.
Yeah, that would be fun. Another creative process there.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, you also thought about creating accessories that people can add to existing products, like if, a belt for your waders, and then it all kind of ties in together. That's really cool.
Yeah, I went into a fishing shop in Houston, Texas during this process, and I was asking him, I said, well, where's your women's section? He goes, well, for the fly fishing side. I said, well, we don't really sell much. Women just want things that fit and that match. I was like, well, that sounds kind of like us. And so I think part of what a lot of people have been shied away from in the past is that they haven't created stuff for women because they don't think the market's there, but they haven't created the market for women.
Mm-hmm. That's
wanted.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Excellent.
So part of it is creating a market that will drive that business and make it fun and create a community for women to feel safe and confident. Another big thing about our mantra is that we want women to be confident. It's just like going to work and you're wearing a business suit, or you go to work and you're dressed, to drive a vessel, right? You have a certain uniform that you wear and you're ready to go and you feel confident. Mm-hmm. And this should be the same thing for women to go out fishing. Why not be comfortable and confident and have technical clothing that works and just make it so that that's your outfit and expresses yourself. So that's kind of the other thing. And that you can also have clothes that go right from the river or the water into dinner or whatever else you want to do. You don't have to change,
Yeah. And a lot of people wear the products, not just for fishing, but for doing other activities as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's
cool. trying to create a little bit of a cultural shift in that way for people. So
yeah, talk a little bit about the quality of the products.
So I'm kind of fussy about that, and making sure that we have a good quality product. You always have little things that happen with products, but overall, we try to make sure like our leggings are an Italian fabric and they're made here in the U.S. Our bags, our skirts, everything is really, we try to make it high quality and fit well for women, and that we make sure that it holds up and and the colors are beautiful and they're clear, and so it's a long process from conception of a design of a fish to when you can get it on the product. So it takes a while to get it right multiple times.
I'm sure the fans of FisheWear appreciate that you're not just sourcing, subpar quality products, for sure.
Yeah. No, and we've had some great collaborations too, working with Orvis and Extra Tough and Groove and all these guys and Cerebella Rods, and so it's fun. I think women are collaborators, tend to be, we really like to collaborate with folks. So.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because that was the very next thing I was going to bring up, is the collaboration with Orvis. I think that's the first time I came across FisheWear, because I was interviewing someone from Orvis on the podcast, and she had mentioned it, and so I looked it up, and I was like, wow, that's really unique. That's a unique design. So that was kind of my first introduction into FisheWear. So I bet that really helped, get exposure for it.
Yeah, we just love working with Orvis, and it's been a terrific experience. They've been great to work with, and we've got some other projects in the pipe coming out this year with them too. So
awesome.
Yeah, so it's been fun, and and then they've got their 50/50 initiative, and we did a short film that was part of their film tour this past year. Got a little hung up with COVID, but it's out there.
Has that been released? Is it out for people?
Yeah, I think they released it. Yes, okay. I think it's out there for people now so that they can see it. Yeah,
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a series of 12 short films, and ours is part of that. So
cool. Very cool.
Yeah, if you can't find it, let me know and I'll get it for you.
Okay, awesome. How has 2020 been for business for you?
It was, all I can think about, I can just remember the beginning of it. I was sitting at my computer at home because we couldn't all be in the office. There's only like 3 of us at the time. And we were just head down, being creative, grinding away every day hard to try and figure out how do we survive this thing, right? And what fun new things do we come up with that are going to engage people? Like the first week we came out with a giveaway. I said, we need to do something fun for people because this is super stressful for people right now and they need something to take their minds off it. So we did a little thing where we said, okay, we're going to have 3 bags. It's kind of like The Price is Right, door number 1, 2, or 3. And we said, okay, let's do bag 1, 2, or 3. You pick which bag you want. You don't know what's in it. And then whoever wins, they pick the bag they want. And we had so much engagement on that. It was so fun.
Cool.
Yeah. And so that was kind of fun. We kicked that off. So it just creates some nice engagement and community feel without, you're not really selling anything. And then people started going out fishing. So it was, it was a pretty strong summer for us. So we're still behind our projections. Overall, it's been strong and it's been fun to see the engagement and just the way that you sell changes because there's not as much in person, even though we're open and we're at 25%. Our online business is what has driven, and we're lucky that we have that platform ready to go. So we were very lucky. Yeah. And we launched it right at the beginning of the year. I was going to trade shows and then I've been talking to a couple of guys about selling for us. And so I geared up this sales team to work for us selling across the United States. And then COVID hits and they're like, whoa, we're sorry. It's really bad. I'm like, hey, we have nowhere to go but up. So just keep selling.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's great. Keep selling. We're good.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. We were kind of talking offline about all the trade shows going away. How big of a portion of your business is traveling and going to trade shows typically?
I think, like most of us in the industry, it's that first quarter where you're doing a lot of trade shows. And so we did like a couple in the beginning and then COVID hit and then, the rest of them were done.
Yeah.
So we were really fortunate to be able to, survive that part. But it was interesting too, because people just shifted their buying habits. And then I think it also makes you pause and think about, well, do you need to do all those shows? Can you do them in a different way and still reach the same audience? And, for us, we're so little that, everything we're going to sell, I haul in my bag. We haul big duffel bags of stuff with us. So
yeah.
Quite the show. A couple 100 pounds of gear, and here we go. 5,000 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting how everything that's happened has made people kind of step back and reevaluate some things. So some positive has come out of it for sure. So. Yeah. It's very interesting. There's a lot of opportunities that makes you really think differently about how you're doing your business. So anything exciting coming up that you can kind of hint at or anything you want to, in particular you want to mention?
Well, part of what we did this year is, working on creating some new items for this coming year. So you'll see some new products coming out in next year. Maybe some warm water ones that you might like, Angie, for
cool.
down at your temperatures.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. And we have some fish designs that will be fun to see, because I know your other passion is bass fishing.
Yeah, I love bass fishing. I'm on the Women's Pro Tour in 2021, so I will be diving deep into bass fishing.
Well, there may be some fun stuff for our bass fishing friends.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that is that would be a fun market to
it's
to
a huge market
at.
too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like kind of where it's at in fishing.
Yeah. I need to come to one of your tournaments so I can kind of see how it's done.
Yeah, and what you really need to go to, if you can, is the Bassmaster Classic, because that is like a whole, maybe you've been before, but that is a whole nother world that it would blow your mind. If, hopefully it's in March this year, it's in Fort Worth, and hopefully everything is allowed to go on like normal, because they have a big convention around it that the public can go to, kind of like ICAST, but it's actually open to everybody. But what blew my mind is these weigh-ins that at the end of the day, and I know fly fishing is really all about catch and release, and they do release the fish, and they try to care for them as good as they possibly can. They always have, like, they're working with the local wildlife resources agency to make sure that the fish are handled properly and all of that, but and released properly. But these weigh-ins are insane. It's like a rock show. They're in these big, they're in an arena. There's loud music playing. It's packed. I mean, it's crazy how many people come out for these things. And then the guys come in, they drive their truck and their boat into the arena. So the angler's riding in his boat as it come in with this loud rock music playing. There's an announcer, and then the guy gets up and he reaches down in his live well and pulls up and holds up the fish, and the crowd just goes crazy. And there's lights, and it's insane.
Wow.
Blow your mind. Yeah. It blew my mind anyway, the first time I experienced that.
So you're going to be up there one day.
Oh, I don't know if I go that far, but hey, anything's possible. If there's
cool.
anything I've learned over the last few years since starting this podcast is that. So, and this year especially. But, yeah, so, it was great having you on the show. I'm going to put a link to your website, FisheWear.com, right?
Yes.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And I'll share some video and stuff like that as well, so people can get a better idea of what we're talking about here if they haven't seen it before. And I'm just glad we finally made it happen.
Well, thank you, Angie. I really appreciate it, and good luck with all your ventures. It sounds like fun.
Thank you. All right, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode. If you like what we're doing, please leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform that you listen on. Most people listen on Apple, seems to be still the biggest platform. We're also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the major podcast platforms. So stay tuned for next week's episode featuring another pioneer in the world of women's bass fishing. And see you then.